This week, I have something a little bit different for you. First off, I have to apologize in advance for the sound quality. My wonderful podcast editor, Mark, will have done his best, but he was up against it. This was recorded on my phone in a moving car as we were pelting through upstate New York on the way from my Amiga workshop to JFK Airport, where I am now as I'm recording this. On the line, or rather in the car, is the fantastic Shawn Leonard, an Indigenous medium from Nova Scotia, Canada, who works with spirit in a deeply compassionate and culturally rooted way. He and his lovely wife, Michelle, kindly gave me a lift to JFK. At first, I only meant to ask Shawn a quick question that had come up in my Amiga workshop, something I was just going to share with the group. But as soon as he started speaking, I knew I wanted to ask more. And before long, we had the makings of a whole podcast, which is why you hear me in the podcast going, one more question, one more question, one more question. So yes, look, the sound is not perfect, but if you can get past that, there are some wonderful nuggets in here, including why you might have been smudging sage all wrong and the right way to do it, the surprising truth about earthbound spirits and why approaching them with fear only makes things worse, what really keeps a spirit from moving on and why free will plays such a big role, how Christ consciousness shows up across cultures, including in Indigenous traditions, and how to discover and work with your own spirit totem animals. So buckle up, literally in this case, and join me for this spontaneous, spirit-filled conversation with Shawn Leonard. So I am asking Shawn Leonard the question that we had in the workshop this morning, which I think was Rebecca saying she desperately wanted to leave her house because she feels there's an earthbound spirit locked in there. And I said that Shawn Leonard had said to me about what you meant to do, and I completely forgot. So we're now in the car and I've got the recorder going.
Okay, well, thank you for asking me to answer this question. But I would say, as an Indigenous person, we've interacted with the different levels of spirit for a long time. And if there is an earthbound spirit, it's just they need to kind of transcend and move into higher level energy. So the greatest thing you can do to approach a spirit is not with the same level of energy. So if you want to change energy, you have to approach it from an opposite level. So because usually earthbound spirits are living in a fear-based type of reality. They're clinging to their old egotistical self. They haven't surrendered or transcended into a higher dimensional energy. So what is higher dimensional energy? Well, we all come from an unconditional loving space and place. So when you meet an earthbound spirit, the best thing to do is to approach them with kindness, respect, and love. And one of the things we do as an Indigenous person is we smudge. And smudging is utilizing certain sacred medicines like sweetgrass, sage, or incense, or etc. And you speak your loving, kind words of light and love to the spirit by using the sage at the same time. Because if you just waft sage around the room, it has no effect or bearing because it doesn't become a ceremony until you put your words into it. So you're performing a ceremony for the spirit so they can transcend and find their way home. So you send them love and guide them to the light with the smudge, because as the smoke rises and through the ethers of the space from which you live, you're filling the air with your prayer and your words. So just be mindful when you're approaching spirit to do it from love, kindness, goodness, and then extend that with your ceremony through your medicines, your sacred smoke medicines. And I think, the church had it in some way back in the day. You may see where they would have used maybe perhaps holy water. And you might have seen some movies where you see the priest walking around going, the power of Christ condemns you. I mean, in my opinion, it's completely the wrong energy, because the priest is using water, which is an extension of medicine that you're putting in the room in ceremony, but he's utilizing in fear to approach the spirit. So it's the wrong energy to approach a person who's already living in fear. It actually could empower them in some way. So just make sure you do it with love, because that's truly our essence.
Right. Well, that's really fascinating because, in fact, I believe it was Rebecca who had said all this. Someone said, have you tried sage? And she said, oh my God, I've tried everything. But maybe she didn't try it with what you're saying. That sort of, it was more like, get out of here, rather than a loving approach.
Yeah, it's putting your mind and your heart and your spirit together with your words, which becomes the ceremony. It's not just saying words, you please leave. I ask you to humbly leave with, kindness, love, and compassion.
Right.
That you find the true essence of who you meant to be and who you truly are, which is love itself. And if you can't, you cannot stay here, but you must move on to the other side. And I'm asking you humbly and kindly to move into the light.
And do you find that this actually does work?
It does work. I've done it many times.
Yeah.
I've gone to places and done it many times for people. Yeah.
You told me about the place that you had been where there was a man who'd actually murdered his family.
Yes.
And then had he killed himself as well?
He did. He unfortunately, it was like an island in Nova Scotia called Tancook Island, who I heard, and he spoke to me and he ran from me literally because he knew that I knew he was there.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And I've never been able to meet up with him and talk to him again. But if I get to go out there, I do have a boat. I'll get out there eventually. I'll go to his house. I'll lay some medicine and I'll have a ceremony in that space for him. So the attachment that he has to it will be disconnected. And then he'll have to face the light himself.
And so just another question, if you don't mind, since we're on a 2-hour drive. These people who are stuck here, you said something about like why they don't want to leave or why they're not leaving. I mean, why are they stuck here?
Well,
don't they want to go?
I wouldn't say anybody's stuck ever. It's a choice because we have free will. And the only things that limit us in life, in all areas of life, and even in the afterlife, is fear. And it's the fear that we give things. There's some people that won't do certain things in life because they're fearful of what they don't know. So they avoid it. So some spirits, it takes them a long time. Eventually, everybody finds their way home in time. But they avoid it or resist, the greater aspect of themselves for a long, long time until they get so tired of it that they have no choice to say, I surrender. I surrender. I'm ready to go home. And then they do go home.
Right. And if I can ask you another question, because I know people are going to find this fascinating. I might even put it on my podcast if that's all right. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely, for sure.
Fantastic. So, we were talking a bit before about my dad who passed away about 16 years ago. So how is it different of you, and you like picked up my grandmother's name, which is extraordinary because it's not even a very common name, and you picked up something I'd been talking about him in the workshop this morning about the Christmas presents around the tree, which is a way of almost him saying he was there, and it is quite amazing. What is the difference then between my dad kind of popping in versus someone who's kind of staying here out of fear?
Well, when I go to properties or locations that have a spirit, it's very much like, what we call home. But in the egotistical self, and when we cling to ideas like our house is our home.
Yeah.
My property is my land. But in the bigger aspect of who we are as spirit, we are everywhere all at once. And we don't choose to only be in one location. And we've lived many lifetimes. And when we move into the light, we have memories of who we've been through all of our lifetimes. And there's many locations we could spend time with or visit, and many ancestors that we could connect to in life that have returned here, but also in the afterlife or the spirit world. But there is no location or space. And in Indigenous culture, we have a teaching even greater than just the world itself, because we teach that the Milky Way, that all the stars of the Milky Way are all our ancestors. And then we've had lifetimes of many other planets within the system itself, not in this solar system, but other systems that exist in the Milky Way as well.
So like, say with my dad, he's in spirit, so he's kind of everywhere all at once.
He can be. There's no place he can't be. He can be with you at the workshop. He can still be visiting your son. He can be in places that he loved. There's not, I have to be only in my home. I could be at all these places at once if I choose.
Right.
You're non-locale. And because our spirit is not contained by form, we can have awareness of many locations at once.
All right. And I just have one more question. I don't know if this is a bit random, but I feel like there's a strong Christ consciousness coming into the earth at the moment. or coming back into play somehow.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, as an Indigenous person who works with totem animals, and maybe we should just talk a little bit about your book that you've got coming about totem animals.
Yeah.
But do you ever get the sense of a Christ consciousness?
Well, I think
As an Indigenous person?
from my perspective, is the ascended master consciousness. And it's something that Joshua back in the day would have embodied, was the ascended master consciousness. And I feel that level of consciousness is finding its way through other people today that are teachers. And so I do feel that there's a rising up. Our spirits are not contained or restricted by government or social ideas or belief systems any longer, that we're freely able to grow spiritually within ourselves and then embody consciousness of the Christ consciousness itself within ourselves. So I feel like there's many more of us stepping into, we'll call it the Christ consciousness aspect these days.
And so even though obviously there is no Christianity in the Indigenous people of, Canada, initially at least, because, they weren't even exposed to it, or the Indigenous Americans, as an Indigenous person, you can still see this energy, sort of feel this energy. What I'm trying to say, I suppose, is that these energies cross cultures.
They do, absolutely. I mean, there's ascended masters in all cultures.
Oh,
Whether
are
it
there?
be Gandhi or Mother Teresa, there's that level of consciousness that exists in many people and other cultures, and even Indigenous people. And there's certain elders that I met that when I have met them, I would say, I recognize that consciousness is within them.
Right.
That I see that ascended master consciousness, that Christ consciousness that exists within them. Even if that, Christianity doesn't really speak to them, that's still a level of awareness and connection to spirit and itself is embodied within their spirit.
Okay. And I know I've said 5 times this is my last question, but guys, if you're listening, I know you're listening to this because you're listening to this. I literally wanted to ask Shawn Leonard 1 question, and now I've asked him about 5. But I think I'm going to make it into a podcast, not just for my people who were in the workshop today. But one thing you may not know about Shawn Leonard is he's got a new book coming out in October with Hay House. So he's a fellow Hay House author. It's about totem animals, correct?
Yes, it's called Walking with Your Spirit Totem Animals. And it's coming out on October 21st, 2025.
Okay. So now, do we all have spirit totem animals?
We do. And, prior to Christianity, if you think about this, all of the cultures prior to Christianity had connections to the animal nation as spirit guides or spiritual totems, whether it be spiritual totems or power totem animals that have been with us. From Egypt to the paganism to Indigenous culture, from all around the world.
Okay.
It's been very deeply connected to humanity for a long time that we are, and you may see art and things depicted where there's, a crossover between humanity and animals themselves.
Right.
Even in India.
Yeah.
Between, the elephant-headed goddess of such, there's a cross-cultural connection between our animals and the spirit medicines that they guide us with. So I believe, and I've been taught through my culture, that animals will show up and give us signs or messages, but also some very specific medicines that come to us that are unique to us. And it doesn't mean that everybody has the same totems either. And I feel through the teachings of Indigenous culture, there's 4 directions, 4 life stages of life, like from infancy to youth to adult to elder, that through each stage of life, a new animal medicine will be presented to us, spiritual and power. So I feel like there's potentially for 2 animals to come at each phase of life for us. So we may be walking around from 4 to 8 animals that are primarily like guides or angels or spirit totems, let's say, that are with you, helping you through with their medicines.
And so what does the book teach us? What's in the book?
Well, that's what this book is going to teach you, is about that aspect, but also help you to kind of discover this for you and explore your life and helping you think about what totems have shown up at the different stages of your life. And then as you step into new stages, because not everybody's in the elder stage of their life, and I'm on the brink of that right now, that there may be some young people exploring, well, I was very connected to tigers. I felt like there was a tiger in my dream all the time, or the bear kept showing up, etc. And then you'll be able to kind of identify, maybe even call upon those animals when you're facing certain situations in life. So I'm helping people understand their connections, who they are uniquely to you, but also how you can work and utilize those medicines to help you through life when you're facing certain things.
And are we talking only about animals in spirit, or can they actually be there?
Well, they can be in spirit and in physical form. I have a very strong totem animal of the bear.
Okay.
And the bear is showing up for me physically in life in different ways, and also spiritually in dreams, etc. And sometimes animals could even come with messages. Like I had a dream last night about a giant, massive turtle holding somebody in their mouth, but I felt like they were protecting them because they were going through a difficult time.
Right. And so obviously lots of us have cats and dogs.
Yes.
In the Western world anyway. So are they going to be little totem animals for us as well?
Potentially they could be, yes, absolutely. Some of your pets, and I've met some people that are very connected to, let's say, the canine nation, like the wolf nation, because all of our dogs have kind of like come from that kind of species, and they love dogs. They're a big part of their life. And they may walk with wolf medicine and maybe not even know it.
Wow. Right. And cats obviously are famously witches' companions.
Yeah, in Egyptian times, I mean, when you passed away, your pets were buried with you, and also like mummified and buried with you in your tombs.
Wait, did they kill them?
I think sometimes, yes.
Oh my God.
Well, they didn't fear death because they didn't believe in death.
Right. And so do animals sort of have like a meaning? So if your animal's a bear, it means this, or if your animal's an octopus, it means this?
Absolutely. I mean, all animals have different, I say, in Indigenous culture, we say medicines.
Okay.
They have different powers and spiritual abilities to kind of help you through certain situations. So even if you identify saying, okay, these are my totems, that doesn't mean you might not call upon the power of the gorilla. Or maybe you need the honesty of Sasquatch or Bigfoot to kind of help you through and face something, to be honest with yourself in a situation, or to have honesty in your life, right? So you could call upon different sacred medicines of other animals, even if they're not your primary totems.
And so what about spiders?
Spiders are arachnophobia.
Are they totem animals for anyone?
They are. They can be for people. Yes, absolutely. They have very deep spiritual meanings and connection. I mean, obviously, they're very creative and
Right.
weave an intricate web of life and very articulate and patient. And, there's medicines that a spider may carry of how they approach life. So when you're facing a situation where you need to bring that medicine into your life, you could call upon the spider to help you.
Amazing. Okay, so I know your website because I went on it today when I was trying to get hold of you. It's Shawn with a W, so SHAWN hyphen Leonard, LEONARD.com. We will put the link below. And thank you for this spontaneous podcast in the car, Shawn Leonard.
Yeah.
Shawn Leonard already has a book out with Hay House and some oracle cards, so you can look those up as well. But essentially working with the Indigenous energy, and definitely someone worth getting to know, and also talks to spirit. We've had a good chat to my dad, and I can tell you he knew stuff that nobody else could have known. So there you go. All right. Well, thanks, Shawn Leonard. Lots and lots of love.
Thank you. And if I sound a little funny, it's because I'm driving, but
You sound great. Thanks.
Thank you.